The air hit me first, sharp and wrong, a mix of charred hot dogs and floral perfume that didn't belong. It was the smell of trespass, a violation hanging heavy over the land my great-grandfather broke with his own hands. Then I saw them bright tints popping up like weeds across my eastern pasture. Campfires flickered, smoke curling into the dusk, and at the center, a gaudy banner staked into my family's heart. Maple Grove Fundraiser for Children's Health. My stomach churned. There she was, Margaret Hensley, perched in a folding chair like a queen ruling over my stolen land. I marched toward her, boots grinding into the dirt. Conversations hushed. Margaret's smile was all teeth, sharp and practiced. "Get off my land," I said, voice low, cutting through the evening chill. She laughed, a high, grating sound. "Oh, Tom, don't be so dramatic. It's for the kids. Community spirit." Her words dripped with fake sweetness. I didn't blink. "This is private property. You're trespassing. Leave now." Her smile faded, and in a flash, she was on her phone, voice shrill for all to hear. "Yes, 911. There's a man here, threatening us. He's scaring families." I stood still, watching her play her part. She thought she'd won. She didn't know she'd just stepped into my trap. This war didn't start with tents. It began 3 months earlier, the day I inherited Willow Creek Ranch, 750 acres of Texas soil my family had worked since 1875. To me, it wasn't just land, it was alive, whispering my grandfather's stories through the ancient cottonwood we called the legacy tree. That tree had seen our births, weddings, and funerals. It was our roots, our pride, our freedom. Then came Maple Grove, a sprawl of cookie-cutter houses, and with it, Margaret Hensley. She'd strode up to my fence, clipboard in hand, and after fake pleasantries, laid out her plan. My eastern pasture was perfect for her neighborhood's expansion. I told her the land wasn't for sale. Her eyes glinted. "We'll find other ways to build community," she said. I knew then, under the legacy tree's shade, this wasn't a neighborly chat. It was a declaration of war. Margaret fought dirty. First came the letters HOA meeting invites, fake rules about shared green space. That meant my pasture. I burned them. Then came Paul, a neighbor who seemed different. He'd lean on my fence, beer in hand, griping about Margaret's rules on mailbox colors. "She's a piece of work," he'd say. "Don't let her push you, Tom." I liked him. That was my mistake. Soon, I found ruts near the legacy tree, tire tracks from dirt bikes cutting close to its roots. It wasn't random, it was a message. I spent a day fixing the damage, anger hardening inside me. The letters stopped. Margaret's next move was colder. A county truck rolled up an animal control officer with a complaint about neglected livestock. I showed her my healthy cattle, my gleaming horses, my records. She apologized and left, but the accusation stung like a slap. A week later, environmental inspectors arrived, probing a chemical spill from my fuel tank. More false claims, more wasted time. Margaret wasn't just annoying, Mesh was building a case to paint me as a reckless landowner, using the state to crush me. Her boldest move came disguised as charity. Flyers announced a community trail cleanup along my fence. 50 people showed up, loud and chaotic, with Margaret directing them like a general. They stayed just outside my property until a loose dog bolted under my fence, chasing a rabbit. My cattle panicked, stampeding toward the county road. The fence splintered. I ran, heart pounding, and herded them back before disaster struck. By nightfall, I stood in the dark, hands raw from wire, staring at my scarred land. Something in me shifted. Margaret wanted a victim. She'd get a fight. I set my trap carefully. I left for a 2-day supply run, knowing Margaret's arrogance would draw her in. When I returned, my pasture was a circus tent, fires, string lights, and that banner screaming her fake fundraiser. Rage burned, but it was focused now, a welder's flame. I walked down the hill. Some waved, thinking I was part of their party. Margaret spotted me. "Tom, isn't this lovely?" "Such a generous host," she called. I didn't flinch. "This is over. Get off my land." Paul stepped up, all fake concern. "Come on, Tom, it's for a good cause." His betrayal cut, but I stayed calm. Margaret dialed 911 again, screaming about an armed, unstable man. I leaned against a fence post, arms crossed, and waited. Sheriff's cruisers arrived, lights flashing. Margaret ran to them, waving wildly. He's threatening us, she cried. Deputy Harris, a grizzled veteran, scanned the scene tense, fires, me standing steady. I handed him a folder, my deed, tax records, a land survey. He read under his flashlight. Margaret babbled about community land. Harris looked at her, voice flat. Ma'am, these records say you're trespassing. No event permits. No fire permits. He turned to me. What do you want to do, sir? I met his eyes. Press charges. Trespassing, property damage, false police report. Margaret's face twisted. You can't. I'm the HOA president. Harris nodded once. The cuffs came out. Margaret shrieked as they led her to the cruiser. Her followers fled, tents collapsing, tires squealing. In 10 minutes, my pasture was empty, littered with trash and dying fires. The silence was heavy, but the war wasn't over. I called Walter Kane, a legend in land disputes. His office smelled of leather and coffee, and his handshake could break stone. He listened, studied my photos and documents, then grinning a hunter's grin. These HOA bullies think their rules trump the law. We're not just suing, Tom. We're tearing them down. Our lawsuit hit Margaret and the HOA hard. Trespassing, endangerment, fraud, false reporting. Their fancy lawyers tried to dismiss it as a misunderstanding. Walter buried them in demands every email, text, and meeting note. He found the jackpot, an email from Margaret titled The Rancher Issue. She'd written, Tom's refusal blocks our community's goals. We'll create a paper trail of complaints to make him a nuisance. He'll sell or we'll force a takeover. It was her plan, laid bare. In court, Walter dismantled Margaret. He showed her emails, played her 911 call, displayed photos of my trampled land. The judge, a weathered Texan, stared at Margaret. Envy isn't a defense in my courtroom, he said. The verdict was brutal. Margaret was guilty on all counts. Damages totaled $1.20 million repairs, her fake fundraiser's profits, and a punitive sum that matched the HOA's entire budget. Margaret's life unraveled. Her husband left, she sold her house, and moved away, last seen working retail. The HOA collapsed into receivership, its bylaws rewritten, a new board elected. My land healed. Wildflowers returned. I hosted a barbecue, inviting Maple Grove. Brisket smoke filled the air. At the fence line, I raised a steel sign, Willow Creek Ranch. Private property since 1875. Margaret Hensley and Paul Carter, banned for life. A plaque below read, Good fences make good neighbors. Bad neighbors meet good lawyers. Standing on my porch, beer in hand, I looked over the fields my grandfather rode. The land endured. I endured. Peace felt hard-won and sweet. This fight taught me community isn't rules or clipboards, it's respect for boundaries, history, and a man's right to his land. Margaret taught me why fences matter, but my real weapons were records, rights, and Walter Kane. What do you think? Have you faced bullies or injustice in your life? Did you fight back with words, law, or something else? Share your stand in the comments. I want to hear where you draw the line against unfairness. Your story matters.